Hi everyone, it's John from What Up. Welcome back to another video, and this is my full Season 3 spoiler-free review of The Wheel of Time. Yes, a bunch of media outlets were able to get a hold of the 8 episodes early, and I was very grateful and lucky enough to be part of that group, and I was able to watch the entirety of the 3rd season, and now I'm going to give you folks my unfiltered thoughts and feelings about Season 3 in a fully spoiler-free fashion. So I want to emphasize that. There are no spoilers for the show or the books in this video. I will not be referencing anything specific from the 3rd season. We're talking about things in a very general sense. Things that I thought worked, things that I thought didn't work, things that I liked, and things that I didn't like. That will come out today in a very general sense. If you're looking for spoiler reviews, they will come out and drop after every single episode drops weekly from Prime Video. And that starts tomorrow evening, March 13th. So I, for one, am very, very excited about it. And I know a lot of you folks out there as well. So before we get into the full spoiler review, I do want to mention something, and I want to thank every one of you out there that's watching this video. We have hit 25,000 subscribers, and that is in no small part to all of you out there for sharing the videos, talking to your friends and family, kind words on social media, you name it. This is because of you folks, and because of that, I'm doing a contest on this video. So if you are a subscriber and you comment on this video, you'll be entered into a draw to win some What Up swag. A couple of t-shirts, a couple of hoodies, a couple of toques, which are warm weather hats for those of you who are not Canadian, a couple of coffee mugs. We're going to give away a bunch of What Up stuff. I will talk more about it at the end of the spoiler-free review, but I will announce the winners on March 13th when I release my review of episode 1. So you have until then to watch this video, be a subscriber, and comment on this video to be entered into the contest in order for a chance to win some cool What Up swag. So let's dive into this, folks. Again, spoiler-free. I'm not going to spoil anything at all here. This is all in a very general sense. It is no secret that I did not fully enjoy every single aspect of Season 1 and Season 2. I love the show dearly, I really do, but there were some things in Season 1 and Season 2 that they could have done better, especially the finales. I did not enjoy them at all. What I will say is that they walked and crawled so Season 3 could run, and not just run, but sprint. Season 3 is such a big improvement, such an upgrade over Season 2, that it's almost as if it's a different show. It's that much better. And I'm not saying Season 2 is bad, but I am saying Season 3 is that far above Season 2 in terms of quality, in terms of acting, in terms of writing, in terms of editing. Editing is a huge thing. We're going to get into that in a minute. Cinematography, the way things were shot. I don't know what they did or what they said to these to the crew members, but it's wild. The directing also, a huge step up from Season 2. There is nothing that is a downgrade from Season 2. Everything is a upgrade, and a very, very big upgrade in quality for Season 3. So let's talk about the dialogue, the acting, and the writing. The dialogue, acting, and writing, in my opinion, for Season 1 and Season 2 were good. Now, they ran into some problems with the finales, especially in some of the ways they portrayed things, and some of their decisions and how they shot things. I didn't really enjoy them that much. So I have been critical here on the channel of the finale of Season 1 and the finale of Season 2. Not saying they're bad TV, it's just it wasn't for me. There is not a single moment in Season 3 where I went, that's not for me. I can say the entirety of the season, the acting, although it was good the first 2 seasons, just kind of took a step up. And I didn't think it could. But the ease at which these characters interact with each other on screen for the 3rd season is kind of mind-boggling. It's like they're family. Now, I know they've been living in close proximity. They've been working together for years, and a lot of them have really practiced and eased into their craft with each other and kind of grown together the last couple of years, and it really, really does show. The cast does a phenomenal job this season. All of the returning cast just blew me out of the water in the way they portrayed their characters. Now, this may have something to do with the fact that a lot of them have started reading the books and doing a lot of research on the characters, but I think it more has to do with the amount of time they're spending together. So they really are friends and almost family now, and it does translate on screen for this 3rd season. The writing and the dialogue. So in this season, there are a ton of passages that are pulled directly from the books and put on screen. In Seasons 1 and Season 2, there were some of them that were, and they were done very well. In some cases, they may not have fit as well as I would have liked when they did it, because you could tell the difference between the writing styles. This season, you can't. So this season, when they pull a passage from the books and it appears on screen identically as it does in the books, the way it's eased into and eased out of afterwards, you can't tell the difference in the writing. The writing is seamless when it comes to pulling from the books and doing their own thing at the same time. You can't, if you're just watching the episode or these episodes, you're able to pick out these things, but not to like the middle of the conversation. Like, I recognize that passage, but it flows so freely and so perfectly that it's takes you a moment to realize what it is. So really, really, really good job in pulling from dialogue from the books and mixing it with their own dialogue for the show. Like, absolutely fantastic. So we talked a bit about the acting. We talked a bit about the dialogue and the writing. The writing for the season had a incredibly clear direction. So nothing felt disjointed. Nothing felt apart from anything else. It was as if you were reading multiple chapters of the books at a time when you watched each individual episodes. The way they switched from story to story, natural end breakpoints from one character's scenes to a fully separate character scenes when you went from one storyline to another. Everything flowed so easily and so comfortably that it just felt right for the entire season. There was not a single awkward transition at all in this season. Speaking of that, editing has been one of my things that I've talked about for season 1 and season 2, that the editing floor kind of ruined certain aspects of the show. They didn't pull out all the stops when it came to editing, in my opinion. They had too much material and they were trying to cut it down for season 1 and season 2. That is not the case for season 3. The editing is so tight in this show, there's not a moment of wasted time on screen. Everything seemed to fit perfectly. I don't know what they did to change the editing, and I've talked to a few other people who've also seen the first 8 episodes of the season, and they all tended to agree the editing for the season was wild. It was so good. The way they put things together, the way they kept the shots tight, the editing of the entire season was, in my opinion, just light years ahead of what they did for seasons 1 and seasons 2. Just well beyond anything we've seen from the Wheel of Time before. Now we're going to get into a bit of the cinematography. So how they shot the show, the camera angles, the single shots. So in season 2, there were a few big battles, and in season 1 there were a few big battles. And when I did my reviews of season 1 and season 2, I said that the battles felt empty. It felt like there was a few people in the middle of the screen and then a lot of wide space around them. It didn't give you the impression of a larger, big battle that was happening. Because they wanted to show everything, and I think that was their idea in seasons 1 and season 2. They didn't want to cut anything out. They wanted to show the landscape and the set and the people that are fighting at the same time. In season 3, for these battles, the shots are much tighter. So you are in the midst of these battles. You are with the characters. You are seeing small groups of people on screen at one time. That gives you the illusion of hundreds of people on screen, all fighting, all doing the same thing. The cinematography for the battle scenes, especially in season 3, are night and day. It's almost unrecognizable with how good they've gotten at doing this compared to season 2. I didn't have a lot of nice things to say about the season 2 finale, especially the big battle in Falm. The battles in season 3 are light years ahead of it, folks. The way they shot them, the way they framed them, quick, few second shots, just a few people on screen at a time, but it gave the illusion of so many more. Along with some very, very good fight choreography. So there was some good choreography in season 2 and seasons 1 when it came to fighting. Less than season 1, I want to say, than season 2. But this time, it really shows. They are highlighting certain characters' fighting styles, and you can tell a difference between different groups of characters and how they fight. You can immediately see someone and how they're fighting on screen and recognize them for which group they're part of. And when they do these tight shots, they are really focusing on the characters themselves. And it feels like you're watching a big budget Hollywood movie where they really, really focus on the fights. So like an action movie when it comes to those action shots. Really, really good job in the way things were framed, shot, and choreographed for these fight scenes. And we're going to move on to VFX and special effects. So it's no secret here on the channel that I am a child of the 80s and I like practical effects. I loathe anything to do with computer effects if I can tell they're computer effects. Now, there are some things out there that they seamlessly put the computer effects in along with the practical effects, and it works really, really well. For example, in season 1, some of the Trollocs were practical, some of them were computer generated, and you could tell which ones were computer generated, and it was not fantastic. I would have rather everybody in rubber suits, but it worked for what they had to do. In season 3, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there is a ton of computer generated effects, but they're seamless. You can't really tell. I mean, you know, because it's fantastical and there's no way that is a practical effect on screen, especially when it comes to the channeling or to other aspects like that. But it is done so well and intermeshed so seamlessly with the rest of the show that I didn't mind, and I hate that stuff. There were a lot of practical effects mixed with the computer generated stuff, insofar as that you couldn't really tell the difference between them in some cases, which is exactly what I want to see. I've said this before, but the low light of special effects for me is Blade 2, when Blade's fighting in front of those big lights. It's just terrible. It's clunky. It doesn't fit right. It has that uncanny valley feel because it's pre AI, but like really bad. There is none of that in season 3. Everything feels crisp, feels clean, feels new, and you can't tell. You can't look at something and say that is computer generated versus not, unless you really think about it and you're like, well, yeah, it makes sense that it can't be real, but it looks real. So they did a really, really good job with VFX and special effects this season, especially with how they shot things in such tight shots. A lot of this season reminded me, especially in the battle scenes and the more horror scenes with the Shadow Spawn and different monsters and whatnot, of Sam Raimi. Now, Sam Raimi is one of my favorite directors. He started out as an indie director, directing films like Evil Dead 2, Army Darkness. Then he went on to Quick and the Dead. He's known for very quick, tight shots of things that skip from one place to another, and they used similar tactics to that this season, and it was done masterfully, really, really well. I didn't have enough nice things to say about that. Now we're getting into the story. The story for the 3rd season, there were a few major storylines that complemented each other to the point where it was seamless. It was like reading the books when you had the characters going off and doing different things, but their stories all complemented one another. They didn't have any idea what was going on with each other, but what they were doing, they were acting towards the same goal in different ways. That's what this season felt like. You had multiple storylines that all dealt with different aspects of the book series, but they did it in such a way that it didn't feel like 4 or 5 different storylines. It felt like everyone was working towards a common goal. The stories were so well cut together that it was not jarring in the least bit when they skipped from one story to another. That did happen a bit in season 2, I thought. But if you're in an action sequence in season 3, they kind of skip to an action sequence, or they naturally move into something a little bit less actiony. Now we're going to get into the next part here too, and that is action. I am not a massive fan of action. I love action movies. I love action for the sake of action, but in today's climate, a lot of streaming services seem to think that explosions per minute is a metric that they really should go by, and that there always has to be some sort of mystery, some sort of action, some sort of death, destruction, exciting things on screen at all times. This season didn't do that, and it was all the better for it. I'm not saying there weren't battles. I'm not saying there wasn't action. In every single episode, there is some form of action. There is some sort of battle. There is some form of excitement. But it is balanced this season with a lot of character development. There are episodes in this where that standalone episode has done more for character development than the entire first 2 seasons for some of our main characters. And for me, the Wheel of Time has always been about the characters themselves, how they interact with one another, and how they grow. We saw that this season. This season allowed these characters to breathe, to grow, to become more central to the focus of the story rather than spectacle. This season was pure character growth for a lot of these folks on screen, and it was just glorious to see, in my opinion. That's what I really loved about the Wheel of Time, and that translated very, very well this season. Now, if you're an action fan, there is a ton of action, there's a ton of mayhem, there's a ton of things that go on the screen, but the character development, the moments between the characters, their friendships, the love for each other, the way they grow as people is very evident from start to finish, and it never stops this season. Every single person has some form of character growth, and there are some characters that were, in my opinion, sort of ignored in the last two seasons that are right up front this time, and they are right in your face, and they are growing and interacting with other people at the same time, and it's just a big treat to see. So now we're getting into costuming, locations, and sets. The costuming, locations, and sets are about on par with the first two seasons, which is to say they're gorgeous. I have never had a complaint about costuming. I've never had a complaint about sets, and I've never had a complaint about locations. Whoever does the costuming, no matter who they are, in this season it's Sharon Gillum and her team. Whoever does the set scouting or set building, whoever does the scouting of the locations, they continue to knock it out of the park. Every single set is gorgeous in its own way and believable. If you have a dingy, dark alleyway, it is believable that's what it is, and it's shot in such a way that it doesn't feel claustrophobic. You have wide sweeping vistas, you have open air shots, you have sets with inside structures, and I won't get into which structures or where you're at, but they are all done so well that you don't ever feel confined and claustrophobic. It feels like it should be there and that you're actually in there. Again, no new complaints or new praise about sets, costume, and location from the first two seasons. It's been pretty steady all the way through. So I'm giving it a ton of praise, and you folks have probably already seen that. You're like, John, what did you not like about the third season? This is going to be difficult for me to say because there's always a couple of things I don't enjoy. There's always a couple of things I'll pick at. So season one was especially the last two episodes. Season two was the finale for sure. I did not enjoy that at all, and I've taken some heat from it from the fandom for that. There is not a single aspect of season three I did not enjoy. This is the Wheel of Time, folks, and now we're going to segue into book fans. So all of that is show stuff. That's just show stuff. And when I do my reviews here on the channel, and I'm very vocal about my reviews for each individual episode, I review the show as a standalone. I ignore the book series exists, and I review it based on the merits of the show itself. And that's what I've done so far in this review, is all of these nice things I've said, all of the excitement that's coming through, and I think you guys can feel it, is based on the show being a standalone and apart from the books. It's just a really good show, folks. This is really, really good TV, and it's done really well. So if you've never read the books and you just enjoy fantasy, this is the bloody show for you. Watch the bloody show. This is, it's so good. And I don't normally comment on book stuff. I don't. Not during my reviews, because I feel it's unfair to show fans to comment about book things when I do a review on a show. But I do want to comment on some book things. I probably won't comment too much on book things during my reviews going forward, but this is a spoiler-free review, so I want to comment about some things. There are scenes from the books in this season that are ripped directly, word for word, and they will bring a tear to your eye. I cried every single episode I watched, and I have no shame in admitting that. I cried because I got to see some of the things that I really, really loved about the book series on screen, some of the things that I really, really was hopeful that we would eventually see on screen. And of course, this entire season adapts The Shadow Rising, which is one of my favorite books of the Wheel of Time series. Not my favorite, but one of my favorite, for sure, top three. And there are a lot of scenes within that book that are so powerful, that are so perfect, that I wasn't sure how they would handle bringing them to screen. And folks, I was not disappointed. If you are a book fan that has not enjoyed the show for the first two seasons, this is your season. Watch the show. You will like it. There are so many things that you're going to look at that and go, that's done so well. I am not saying there are not changes to certain plot points and character arcs. There are some major changes with the way things are structured, but the changes are not made for the sake of changes this season. They are made in such a way to enhance how they can show this in the time frame they have. You are going to see some of these scenes on screen that are perfect from the books. They are exactly how you would have imagined them. And I can't stress that enough, that if you are a book fan that did not enjoy the show and you're watching this review, and I know a lot of you out there that watch this channel did not enjoy the first two seasons, you need to watch season 3. start to finish, it is a treat for both show watchers and book fans. And I don't have a single bad thing to say about it. It is absolutely amazing. Now, I have to give it a score, of course. The entire season for me gets a 9 out of 10. It's not completely perfect, but I will tell you there are multiple episodes this season that I gave 10s to when I'm doing my reviews. I have a little notebook here. When I watched it, I wrote down all the things I want to talk about for all of my reviews, so they would be fresh in my mind. Essentially, when I do a review here on the channel, I watch the episode once. That's it, and I do my review. So I have all of my notes that I'm going to be doing for reviews for each individual episode, and I can tell you that a number of them are 10s. So overall, the entire season gets a 9 for me, and it's like it's a 9 plus. Like, it's not quite a 9.5, but it's like in between 9 and 9.5. It is really, really very good TV. So take this with a grain of salt. Of course, these are my own thoughts and opinions, and I can't give you any information to back any of this stuff up because it is a full spoiler-free review. However, watch the season, folks. Make your own opinions, and let me know what you think. So, of course, it's out in about a day, a little over a day right now, and we're going to see the first 3 episodes. So you folks will get to see some of what I saw in the next day or so. And I know you're going to be as excited and happy as I am about this. Even people that don't like the show, you will like this season. It is bold claims, I know. Will everyone like it? Probably not. There's always people that don't feel and think the same way, but I think the majority of people out there will really enjoy the season, and you definitely should give it a watch. Now, saying all of that, there is still some hesitation about season 4 and beyond, and we will be talking about that here in the channel in the next little bit, covering it, because there's always new information that comes to light with that. But I will say this, to the people at Sony Pictures TV, to the people at Amazon, you are all morons if this does not get renewed for season 4 and beyond. And we're not talking one final season, we're talking multiple seasons. You would be stupid not to renew this show. With how good this season is pinnacle TV. It is really, really good, and I believe in my heart of hearts it's going to be received well by a much wider audience than the first 2 seasons. The show has really hit its stride. And there are a lot of shows out there that did not do well the first couple seasons, and then they really picked it up and they did well afterwards. There's a few Star Trek iterations, I think, that are just like that, that became cult TV afterwards. This is one of those things. I think people are going to look back years from now and go, the first 2 seasons were okay. 3rd season is when the Wheel of Time actually started. I think that's what people are going to say. So if anyone out there from Sony Pictures TV or Prime Video is watching this, I am letting you know, as a Wheel of Time super fan and as someone who just in general loves TV, loves movies, and loves entertainment, that this season is the best season of TV that you put out from any of your shows in a very long time. It is far above and beyond The Boys, far above and beyond Reacher, far above and beyond Landman, far above and beyond. It is just wild how good this season is. And I, for one, really, really hope that everyone sits down and thinks long and hard about this before they make the decisions on what's going to happen with the show, because it's that good that it deserves and needs more TV. It really does. So anyway, just a reminder to all you out there watching this, there is the contest running. If you are a subscriber and you comment on this video, you are entered into that contest. I will announce the winners during my spoiler-free review of episode 1 coming out March 13th, within about an hour or so of the first episode airing. So, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe before you comment. That way you will be entered into the contest. Let me know your thoughts and your feelings on what I said today, and I do want to hear from everyone. This season's going to be wild, folks, and I can't wait for everyone else to see exactly what I have. Thank you very much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.